In this video, we're going to be looking at the conventions of making speeches. Speeches have two basic elements, that is the manner and the matter. We'll be dealing with each of those in a moment. The purpose of a speech is to entertain your audience while also persuading them to your way of thinking. The tone of a speech is informal, and for that reason you can write in the first person. Let's look at the two elements. The first element is manner, or that is how you say the words that you're delivering. The second element is matter. What is the subject matter, or what are you actually saying to your audience? First of all, look at manner. There are a number of ways of delivering your speech to draw your audience in and to hold their attention. That is by pausing for effect, making eye contact with your audience, using hand gestures to emphasize your words, using tone and pitch to draw the audience in, pacing, ensuring that you speak slowly so the audience has enough time to understand what's being spoken, and enunciation, ensuring that you speak clearly and that you pronounce every sound in every word. One of the masters of this is Barack Obama. We're going to watch a short clip, and I want you to pay attention to how he's delivering his speech, his hand gestures, his tone of voice, his eye contact, his body language, and see the way that this is engaging and makes it easy to listen to.
John Kerry believes in America, and he knows that it's not enough for just some of us to prosper. For alongside our famous individualism, there's another ingredient in the American saga, a belief that we're all connected as one people. If there's a child on the south side of Chicago who can't read, that matters to me even if it's not my child. If there's a senior citizen somewhere who can't pay for their prescription drugs and having to choose between medicine and the rent, that makes my life poorer even if it's not my grandparent. If there's an Arab American family being rounded up without benefit of an attorney or due process, that threatens my civil liberties.
You can see that the way that Obama delivers his speech is powerful and engaging for his audience. Let's turn now to looking at matter, or what is said in a speech. This is usual techniques for persuasion. Things such as using high modality language, repetition, repeating things up to 3 times has a magic effect on the human brain and it seems to resonate. Rhetorical questions will get your audience to think. Quotations and authoritative statements help add force and back up what you're saying. Anecdotes and humor entertain and draw your audience in. There's videos explaining each of these, which you should also check out. We're going to look at a famous speech delivered by Australian Prime Minister Paul Keating called the Redfern speech. Now, you'll notice that the way he delivers it may not be so engaging. His manner is not particularly impressive, but the words that he uses are powerful and clearly have a strong or elicit a strong response from his audience.
Recognise that the problem starts with us, the non-Aboriginal Australians. It begins, I think, with an act of recognition. Recognition that it was we who did the dispossessing. We took the traditional lands and smashed the traditional way of life. We brought the diseases and the alcohol. We committed the murders. We took the children from their mothers. We practiced discrimination and exclusion. It was our ignorance and our prejudice and our failure to imagine that these things could be done to us. With some noble exceptions, we failed to make the most basic human response and enter into their hearts and minds. We failed to ask, how would I feel if this was done to me?
Here we can clearly see that the words that Prime Minister Keating has used is speaking deeply to his audience. Let's move on here. Another key thing you'll need to attend to is the structure of your speech. Now, if you're given this as an assessment, it's more than likely that the assessment will clearly dictate the structure and you'll need to base it off that. If, however, the speech is simply to persuade, the structure that is used here may be extremely useful to you. So the first 30 seconds of your speech is arguably the most important part. In that first 30 seconds, the audience makes a decision about whether or not you're interesting to listen to. You can create this interest and draw your audience in a number of ways. That is through using humor, or a story or anecdote, powerful quote or startling statistic, something that piques the audience interest and makes them decide that they want to hear more. So here, this speech is on the elimination of nuclear weapons. It was Albert Einstein who said, "The unleashed power of the atom has changed everything, save our modes of thinking, and thus we drift towards unparalleled catastrophe." This is clearly a powerful quote that's designed to pique the audience's attention or interest. We then move on and we start with our first most powerful point or powerful argument. So here we say nuclear weapons are the most destructive, inhumane and indiscriminate weapons ever created. Here we're starting with the most relevant argument, or the thing we think is going to be most persuasive to our audience. We then move on to our second most important point. In this case, it talks about the statistics and the incredible damage done when they have been deployed and tested. What we can then do in our next paragraph, we can either give a number of other useful arguments, or we can present counter-arguments. What might somebody say against us? And then we argue against those. So in this case, it says, some people will say that we need nuclear weapons in order to feel safe, that if we don't have them, then the other side will. And before we know it, we'll be militarily and strategically outmaneuvered. I say this thinking is just plain wrong. Here, the author is presenting a counter-argument to their own, but then they begin to attack it, to knock it down and say what the other side think is wrong. Once you've done this, you then go on and you present your solution. It's one thing to say that this is what's wrong with the world. You now need to say what you want to see happen, which will improve the world. And this one, it's calling for people to sign treaties which bans nuclear weapons. Finally, you want to finish on something powerful, something that hopefully resonates in the audience's mind days or hours after your speech. There's a number of ways of achieving this, but something that sums up your position and is cannot be forgotten easily. Okay. Speech writing has a number of elements. Obviously, you need to attend to what you're saying, but then you also need to attend to how you're going to say it. It's advisable that you write your speech thinking about the words and the elements you're going to put in, and then practice that speech so you can work on how you're going to say it.